Today is Friday the 19th of August, and those of you from the UK, you'll probably know it's the day after results day. And I'm actually going to open my results in this video, but the reason I didn't do it yesterday was because, quite frankly, I had just better things to do. I was really busy, so I didn't actually get around to it, but I haven't actually seen them yet. I have checked UCAS, so I do know that I was just declined from my university offers, which is obviously fine because everyone knows I'm not going to university anyway. But I thought it'd be interesting to open them and see how bad they actually are. So, all good, but I mean, they can't be more than like ABB, I think, because AAB was my lowest offer from university. So what I've seen so far is the email that I've got from school. I haven't clicked on it yet, it's still unread, but it says, A-level results. Hi Max, please find your results attached. Kind regards, such and such from school. So I'm going to open it now, and so there's like a PDF attached to it. Okay, so there's the extended project qualification, which I got a C in. That was sort of something you did sort of on the side. That wasn't part of the A-levels necessarily, that was just sort of an additional qualification. Maths in the end I got a B. Further maths in the end I also got a B in that. And computing I got a C. So, yeah, I mean, I can't really complain. I think, to be honest, I think I actually completely got what I deserved, even though it's probably lower than what a lot of people were expecting me to get, because a lot of people in further maths classes get, you know, A's or A stars, but I honestly think I got what I deserved, and quite frankly, I don't need anything more than that just to be able to do what I want to do, because I don't necessarily want to go to university, so I don't need the grades for that. And I mean, B's don't look massively bad to an employer anyway, I don't think, in my opinion. So it's really interesting how a lot of people think that, you know, A is like fantastic and absolutely, you know, something you have to achieve, and then B's are just something that are like absolutely terrible and, you know, like the devil. You just, you know, if you get a B, you're absolutely rubbish at that A level or whatever. And okay, yeah, you'll be a bit worse than people who got an A and A star, and you might go to slightly worse universities if that's your intention, but I don't want people to get hung up on the fact that, you know, just because they got bad grades, it's, you know, going to limit them or, you know, hold them back in life, like, to do what they want to do, because even though it might make that sort of slightly harder, it's not going to be, you know, impossible to do that. And that's really all I was going to say, because I mean, as long as you got what you think you need to be able to move forward with your life and do what you want to do, then that's the most important thing. As long as you're not really upset that you didn't get to your favourite university. I mean, obviously, if your intention is to go to university, then A-levels are going to be, you know, significantly more important to you, because you have to get the grades to be able to meet that university criteria, at least in the UK. But if you don't, then, I mean, so be it. I mean, there's always, you know, other options. You can go through UCAS clearing, or just decide not to go to university, or take a gap year and apply next year, or, you know, do some A-level exams, you know, next year when the year below you does it, so you have the grades to be able to get into that university just a year later than everyone else. I mean, there's a lot of options, so I wouldn't sort of give up just straight away just because you've got bad grades. But I mean, quite frankly, I'm really happy with the grades I got, because even though they were lower than, you know, a lot of people expected, and quite frankly, they were probably lower than even I was aiming for, but I remember during, you know, a lot of those exams, just going into them thinking, you know, it doesn't matter that much to me. I mean, I know that's a really bad way of thinking about it, and I should have done as well as I possibly could, but in that sense I probably did, because I always sort of knew on some level that I wouldn't want to go to university, and quite frankly, just because I've only said that a month and a half ago, that I actually announced it to people that I wasn't going to university. The truth is that I've actually been thinking about that a lot longer, and I don't think it's ever been something that's really interested me to stay in school, past A-levels, to be completely honest. And I think that's okay. I mean, just because the schools, at least the school that I went to, just forces university on you, like there's no other option. You have to take this student loan and you have to get this degree in education to get the job that you want to get. But the fact is that if I was doing a computer science degree, I'd be learning Java and C++ and MATLAB and ML if I went to Cambridge, which all are just completely irrelevant technologies for the actual specific field that I want to go into. So it's almost like, well, I know the technologies that I want to use now, and I don't know and I don't need to know the technologies that I'm going to be using in university for 3 years, or 4 if I do a year in industry, but that year in industry would be related to the technologies that I'd be using, which is not the field of computer science that I want to go into anyway. So actually the technologies that I want to use, I mean, I feel very confident that I can learn what I don't know, because I've learned the majority of them already, and I mean, that just made more sense to me personally, just not going to university, because I kind of pride myself on the fact that I've never had a programming lesson in my life, in terms of school or education, paid education or anything like that. Because that's all just been powering through YouTube tutorials. There'll be a playlist of 60 tutorials on, Python basics for beginners or something. I just watch all of them, and then watch the HTML and the CSS and the JavaScript and the and then the more advanced ones for Django Web Framework and stuff like that. And then I still watch tutorials all the time just to educate myself further on the technologies that I'm using, because they're constantly changing and having new updates and just loads of stuff coming out that I wasn't previously aware of. And no one can know a technology fully either. That's the thing I think a lot of people don't understand, is because just because you say you can program doesn't mean you actually know the programming language in its entirety, because quite frankly no one does. Even, for example, Guido van Rossum, he's the actual inventor of Python, but even he doesn't know that language. And the reason for that is because so many people have now added to it and changed it and manipulated it and made it into something that they want to use by adding frameworks or doing whatever they want to do with it. And Guido van Rossum, okay, he knows a lot more than everyone else about it, because he has such a fantastic low-level understanding of it, but even he doesn't actually know everything, and what he is going to need to know to do what he wants to do, then you can just Google that, because it'll be on Stack Overflow somewhere. And if it won't, then there's other ways of figuring it out anyway. If you have to write an algorithm, you just have to think a bit harder about it, or that's one of the things they teach you in university, for example, how to write an algorithm. Anyone can write an algorithm, you just have to think about it. And the more you think about it, the more algorithms you write, the better you'll be at algorithm writing. So if that's something you really need to do, then just think about how you're going to approach that problem, and then you'll be able to eventually solve it, even if it might take you a little bit longer than if you had a fancy degree. But if you want to get a fancy degree, then that'll waste at least 3 years of your life in gaining that knowledge. Okay, so I actually got cut off slightly early when I was talking about going to university, and I just wanted to clarify that I don't by any means think that going to university is a bad thing. In fact, it's the best thing to do for the vast majority of people, and I did talk about that in more detail in the very first video on this channel, which is a video called How I Spent My Life Savings, which I'll link in the video description. But I don't by any means want to sort of deter people from putting as much effort in as they can to their A-levels, or trying to get to their university of choice if that is their intention. And as I said, for the majority of people, that is going to be your intention, because you're probably going to want to go to university because that's what the majority of people do. All I'm saying is that for some people, that's not necessarily the best option. And I think it's good to consider, the fact that, maybe you don't want to go to university, because some people don't, and that's okay. You just sort of have to have a bit of a plan with what you want to do with the rest of your life, and you know how you're going to get a job if that's your intention. Or, I mean, you know, realistically, most people who don't decide to go to university are either going to take a gap year or get a job, or try to do entrepreneurship or something, which hopefully I like to think that these videos help slightly. So that's my intention behind, you know, putting all this content up about business and stuff like that, just so I can share as much as knowledge as I can, even though I don't claim by any means to be an expert or even that well educated, as you well know now that you know my results. But you know, I just think that, you know, if one of my videos helps someone learn something, that you know, then help them to do something better with their life, then really that's all I can ask. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and learning about my results. But as long as you work hard and you set realistic expectations for yourself and goals that you want to achieve, then and you know, you work hard to achieve those goals, whether that be getting a degree or actually going into the industry and, you know, getting promoted and getting the best possible job you can and securing a, you know, financial more stable financial future for yourself. Whichever, you know, option you take, whether it's getting a job or going to university and then getting a job, it doesn't really matter that much, as long as, you know, you choose what's right for you. You make sure that you're making an informed decision, and then realistically, as long as you just work hard and put in the effort now, then, you know, everything else is going to sort of fall into place eventually. So I mean, really, that's all you can do.